How's it going out there, YouTubers? Cyberneticshark here with another new movie review for you. So let's go right into this review and see what I saw. So the other day, I had the pleasure of checking out an awesome new movie. Or actually, it's the first time seeing it actually, but it's actually came out 30 years ago, and this is my first time watching it. And it's a horror classic that a lot of critics have said that was decent for its time. It was just a really good, interesting type of horror film, and that it was a fun one. And that, of course, is the film called Pumpkinhead. Now, Pumpkinhead, if you're not familiar with it, is basically about a demon that's summoned to kill people for revenge, basically. The film itself is just interesting and awesome. It was great for 1988. I think that the idea behind it was really cool and just a really fun and interesting film. Now, this awesome film was directed, and also this is his directorial debut, because he didn't really do many actual directing, films. He directed one other film that I'll be talking about a little bit later, but that would be the awesome special effects whiz, Mr. Stan Winston. Now, Stan Winston, unfortunately, passed away in 2008 from cancer, but was an amazing special effects artist, and he actually was a decent director. Now, with this film, he just directed it beautifully, I feel. And I thought he did a really fantastic job. But when it comes to a couple other things that he's been a part of, the one other directing film that he actually directed was a film that was also made in the late 80s, early 90s. And that is a film called The Adventures of a Gnome Named Norm. Now, this film, I actually remember seeing this film back in like 1990 when it came out. And remember, it was just like, for its time, the animatronics were really decent. And I just remember thinking that this was a funny film. And just one along the lines of like movies like Munchies or Gremlins or Dark Crystal, stuff like that. And it was just a really interesting and fun kind of idea behind bringing a gnome to life, basically, and making him like a cop, basically. And I remember that Stan did a really good job of directing that film, too, even though it wasn't considered a commercial hit. It still was a fun and, entertaining film. Now, like I said, he really hasn't directed really anything else. He's been mostly his awesome special effects whiz. And of course, he did the special effects for such great films as Jurassic Park. He did some great and Oscar-winning special effects for the film Terminator 2: Judgment Day. And many other films over the years, up until the time of his death. He did a ton of amazing special effects for films. He's won several Oscars for his special effects. And he was an amazing special effects artist. But also, I think he was a good director, too. But when it comes to the awesome film Pumpkinhead, I thought for being his directorial debut, he did an awesome job. You would never think that Pumpkinhead was directed by somebody that hadn't directed before, because it was just so smooth and the whole story was really awesome, and it was your classic and perfect 80s type of horror flick. Along the lines of like Freddy Krueger, the Nightmares on Elm Street, or the Friday the 13th, or the horror films of that type of nature back in that time frame. And I thought he did a really good job with the film and just made a really entertaining and fun film. Now, this film has a decent cast, and quite a few of these characters and actors actually have gone on to do quite a great deal of great movies. A lot of them have done some TV shows and so forth. Now, to start off this awesome cast, we have none other than an awesome actor himself that played Bishop in Aliens, Alien 3, and Alien Resurrection, and also he was a part of Alien vs. Predator. And that, of course, is Mr. Lance Henriksen. Now, you might recognize him, like I said, from the Alien films, but also you might recognize him from the third Scream film. You might recognize him from a slew of other films over the years, Quick and the Dead, and so forth. Now, a couple films I really enjoyed him in and thought he was fantastic in were none other than an awesome James Cameron-directed film, and also a sequel to a 1978 classic, and that, of course, is Piranha 2: The Spawning. Now, I know this film didn't do as well as the first film financially. It still was an amazing and awesome feat by James Cameron, I thought. And I thought Lance Henriksen was awesome as the sheriff in the film. I really liked his character. I thought he was an awesome, hero in the film, and being like the main hero and stuff like that. I thought he was really awesome and just did a really good job, and gave that film a lot of life that majority of the other actors that were involved in the film really didn't to bring, because, you know, Lance Henriksen has a really awesome kind of like quality about his acting, I felt, and I thought he brought that to this film and really made it entertaining and a really fun experience and just a great sequel to the original Piranha. Another great film that Lance Henriksen was in that I think is a fantastic film and just a really great beginning to an awesome series that's been going on and will be continuing in 2019. And that, of course, is the awesome 1984 film Terminator. Now, in Terminator, Lance Henriksen plays like one of the detective guys that's on the case for all that's going on with, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger's Terminator character killing people and stuff like that. And I just really thought that his character was really interesting. I thought he was a cool detective. I thought he brought a lot of great and interesting aspect to the film. I think he just made a really interesting character. And I thought he paired and worked well with everyone that was involved in the film. And just, I thought he was really, like, kind of cool and sophisticated, but at the same time, he had kind of, like, this dark side to him. I thought it was a really good performance, and I thought it was a really great addition to that film. Now, when it comes to Pumpkinhead, I really liked Lance Henriksen's character in this film. I love that he was kind of like the hero / antagonist, kind of bad guy in the film. I thought that was really cool. I thought he did a good job of playing the character he did. You know, playing a father that has just lost a child and feeling revenge and stuff like that. He just did a really good job of bringing that emotion to life. And I thought that his performance was really fun and really made the film very entertaining. I thought that he was a great addition and a great, you know, choice for that main character. And just, you know, giving us a whole new idea behind a great new horror legacy. And I thought he did a really good job with that. Another actor that is a part of this awesome film is none other than a guy that was huge back in the late 70s, early 70s, and, you know, had a good career in the 80s and did some stuff in the 90s, and also was a big, you know, kid actor. And he did a lot of great, like, you know, kid acting type of, you know, films and stuff like that. And that is none other than the awesome actor himself, Mr. Jeff East. Now, Jeff East, you might recognize from a slew of, you know, films in the 70s as a kid. You might recognize him as, you know, an actor from the 80s, you know, a few different types of films, lots of, like, TV dramas and soap operas and stuff like that. But a couple films, or a few films I've heard about, and I actually haven't had the chance of seeing, and one of them I actually have. But a couple films that he was actually involved with as a teen were none other than a couple musical films. One happened to be called Tom Sawyer. And then the other one happens to be called Huckleberry Finn. And he actually plays the same character in both films of Huckleberry Finn. Now, this is actually a musical film, kind of like along the lines of like Oklahoma, Sound of Music, and stuff like that. And this was actually a different type of film I've heard. I've heard that it was actually a big hits, both of them, Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn, for their time. And that he was actually really renowned for playing Huckleberry Finn in both these films. And this is kind of what rose him to stardom. And I actually haven't had a chance of checking out these movies, but I've heard that they're really decent, really interesting, and a great musicals if you're a big musical fan. Now, the only other movie I have seen that he actually was in that I thought was a really fantastic film, greatly directed by Richard Donner, a great introduction to an awesome DC character, and that, of course, is the Superman movie from 1978. Now, he actually ends up playing teenager Clark Kent in the film, and I totally didn't really realize that was him, actually, because it's been so long since I've seen the original Superman. And when I researched it and found that out again, I was like, holy crap, that is him. I totally didn't even realize it. But at the same time, I was like, I totally recognize that face, because he really didn't age and change very much from 78 to 88. I mean, that 10-year span, of course, you know, he aged 10 years, but still, at the same time, I was like, he totally looks exactly the same. So it was kind of funny not recognizing that he was the guy from, you know, Superman 1 playing, you know, teenage Clark Kent. But at the same time, I thought he did a really good job as teenage Clark Kent. You really felt his emotions. You really felt like he was Clark Kent. And I just thought he did a really good job in that role and just was really interesting and fun. and, gave us a whole new idea on, what Clark Kent felt through those teenage years, learning that he was an alien and learning that he had powers and stuff like that. So I thought that was really a great feat by Jeff East and how he did that. But it comes to in Pumpkinhead, I thought Jeff East was really awesome. I loved how he was kind of like a vulnerable character, how his character was very just kind of like, I'm there and I know what I did was wrong and I'm trying to rectify it, but at the same time I got this crazy creature after me. He did a good job on the film, I thought, and I thought his acting was pretty decent. I thought it was really hunky dory type of acting for the film, and just was a great kind of like cheesy aspect to the film too, giving it that nice kind of funny horror 1980s feel. And I thought he was decent in it and made it very enjoyable and entertaining. Another character actor that's actually involved with this film, he's been in a ton of movies, TV shows, different types of films over the years, and just as a big character actor that was involved with this film. And that is none other than Mr. John D'Aquino. Now, John D'Aquino, you might recognize from, like I said, a slew of, soap operas and TV shows during the 70s and 80s. You might recognize him in a few different movies as different characters and stuff like that. But a couple things I've seen him in and thought he was fantastic in were none other than an awesome TV show that was in the early 90s starring Jonathan Brandis and Roy Scheider called seaQuest DSV. Now, seaQuest, if you're not familiar with it, was kind of a deep sea kind of like TV drama show that involved this like deep sea quest people that went on adventures and stuff underseas with like a giant submarine thing that they worked in, and they had to discover things, and they'd have to fight creatures and stuff like that. It was a really interesting and awesome TV sci-fi drama, and John D'Aquino actually played one of the main characters in the show. I can't remember exactly what his character's name was or what exactly he was, but I do remember that he was a big part of the crew, and that he like had a lot of great one-liners. He was a great addition to the show and just made it very fun and entertaining. I thought he worked really well with Jonathan Brandis and Roy Scheider, and I thought that he made the whole TV show and a whole together working with everyone just a really fun and entertaining show. It really didn't get enough credit for how good of a show it was either, I feel, and I think everyone involved did a really good job. And I actually didn't watch it too much at the time, but now as I've gotten older and remember it, I remember thinking that this was a state-of-the-art show for its time. And definitely everyone involved, even John D'Aquino, I thought did a fantastic job and really gave a lot of great acting and characterization to the show. Really fun show if you haven't seen it. Definitely check it out if you haven't. seaQuest, DSV, really good. Another great show that he was in, and that he was an awesome president character, and I just think he was absolutely hilarious in the show, and just was a great addition to the show. And that is the Disney Channel show Corey's in the House, which is basically about Corey's character from That's So Raven that goes and ends up living in the White House while his dad's a cook there. And I think that show is just absolutely underrated and so freaking funny. And I thought John D'Aquino was so awesome as the president character and super hilarious and funny. I didn't realize how great of a comedic element he had to him until I saw him in that show. And I think that that's his biggest and greatest suit is being a comedian. I think he's fantastic at it and should do a lot more comedy. And he just was like so sticking hilarious. He had that kind of like goofy humor to him where he like played kind of like a dumb idiot, but at the same time he kind of has a smarts to him, kind of like the characters in like Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, the guy that was the maintenance guy in that show, or in Ned's Declassified, the principal and the vice principal in that show, and also the maintenance guy in that show. It makes me think of those characters, and I thought he did such a great job. Really fun, character, and just a really fun show as well. If you haven't seen Corey in the House, definitely check it out, people. It's worth watching for John D'Aquino. Super funny. But it comes to in Pumpkinhead, he played such a great bad guy / kind of just like dickhead. And looking at him in it, it was so funny because he's like looks so much older than all the rest of the cast, because he was almost 40 in this movie. And he just did a great job of just being that kind of asshole character that you're like, okay, you're the one that's going to get us killed, you dumbass, and you're like, oh, why do we have this guy around and stuff like that. He played that type of character, and he was so freaking hilarious at the same time, and just a really great, like, perfect, like, bad guy antagonist type of character, in a classic 80s film. And he just did a really good job. I really enjoyed his character, and I thought he was a great addition to that film. To round out this awesome cast, we have none other than a great actress who was a big character actress during the 80s, did some things in the 90s, and, kind of has done things over the years, but she's a great character actress, and that is none other than Miss Carrie Ramsden. Now, Carrie Ramsden was in a couple films I've seen that I think are just really fun sequels. One of them, actually, I haven't had the chance of seeing. The other one I have seen. The first one that I've actually seen is actually an awesome sequel and a great horror series that, has been, years and years in the making. They've done, 7 films. Just a really fun, awesome horror character that Robert Englund has, brought to life for many years. And that, of course, is the awesome movie A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge. Now, she plays a very short part in the film. She plays, like, this girlfriend character to one of the characters that's in the film, that gets killed and so forth. But at the same time, just that little role was very fun, and she brought a lot of realism, a lot of great characterization just to that, short moment of a character. And I really enjoyed it. I thought she did a really fantastic job. I thought she, was a classic, Scream Queen type of character. And I thought that she just was a really great addition to that film. Even though it was a very short part, she still brought a lot of great entertainment to the film and, made it enjoyable and fun to watch. Now, the other movie that she was in that I know about, that I just haven't had the chance of checking this one out, but I heard it's a really funny, awesome kind of like comedy horror film. And that, of course, is the film Ghoulies 2. Now, Ghoulies 2, they actually have made 4 films in this series, and she ends up playing the main character in the second film. And basically, it's kind of like the hero antagonist, kind of character that has to beat the ghoulies and help save the world from the ghoulies and stuff like that. And just from what I've read and the trailer I've seen, she seemed like she did a decent job. Like, she was a great addition to the film. That she played a really good hero type of character, and that she, just made an entertaining film. And that she really, put that characterization to work that she's really good at. Because she's a really good, character actor. Kind of like Stanley Tucci or Oliver Platt. She has that type of acting ability. And she just did a really good job in the film, I've heard. And that she made it very entertaining and was probably one of the better of the sequels of the film series. Besides, the first one, of course. And just, she made it really fun and an interesting type of film. But when it comes to in the awesome Pumpkinhead film, her character in the film was really fun and interesting, I thought. I thought she did a really good, character study and character acting in the film as well. I thought she played the role very well when it comes to her having to interact with Pumpkinhead himself. I thought she did a fantastic job of, being in fear, being, not wanting to die and stuff like that, and just interacting with Pumpkinhead. And I thought she did a really good job. She had a really good, like, very kind of fearful, role kind of moment and having to deal with it. And I thought she was a good addition to that, cast. And just made a fun and interesting female character for the film. And she just was really interesting, like I said, and just, I thought she did a really good job. I was very entertained by her character, too. I just thought everyone involved in the film, I just thought they all did a really good job. They all made a really classic, nice, 1980s type of horror flick. And it had that true feeling of a 1980s horror flick to me, too. Because I have seen some, like, 80s films that I feel that were very kind of advanced for their time, that they didn't seem like they're from the 1980s. They felt like they were still kind of lingering in the 70s somewhat, or they were, trying to be more futuristic, like the 90s or the 2000s. And this one just felt very classic, very 80s, very much like a great horror film from the 80s. And I thought everyone, all the cast, did a really good job of doing that. Really well done, very fun and entertaining horror film. Definitely one you should put on your list to see, especially if you haven't seen it. It's one of those ones you're like, oh, okay, I need to see that, like The Godfathers or, Grease or Sound of Music or Singing in the Rain, stuff like that. Films that are considered such classic. This is a classic film. It was really, really awesome, and I'm glad I finally watched it because it's just a really awesome horror flick and really well done by Stan Winston. Now, if you're not familiar with what Pumpkinhead is about, Basically, the premise of the story is Lance Henriksen's character is a descendant of of people that had to interact with Pumpkinhead, 40 years prior. And basically, what ends up happening is these teens come to town and they're riding around in the dune buggies, and his only son actually gets in the way and gets killed. And so he is so upset and distraught and angry that he asks that Pumpkinhead be released so that he can get revenge on these teens and kill them. And then he ends up finding, as the time goes on, he realizes what he did was not the right idea, and he tries to stop Pumpkinhead. And that's pretty much what the premise of the film is. It's just a really awesome story. I really like the idea of Pumpkinhead because he was a very different looking, demon creature slash, supernatural creature. I liked the look. I thought he was really well characterized by Tom Savini Jr. He did a really good job of playing the character, and it's just a really entertaining film. If you're a huge horror fan, or if you love horror at all, this is a movie to see for your horror fans. It's just a really well done film. Really enjoyed it, and I can't wait to add it to my collection. It's just a really awesome film. It's really well done, I thought, by Stan Winston, for his directorial debut, like I said, and definitely a giant 10 golden movie boxes up on this one, people. It's totally worth the watch and a fun film. It actually makes me want to watch the sequels that they've made to see how they bear compared to this one. Looking forward to watching it again sometime in the future. Really awesome film. Can't wait to own it. Yeah. So that's it for this movie review, guys. As always, thank you for watching. Thank you for liking. Also, thank you for subscribing. And if it's your first time here, or if you've been here before and you haven't hit that subscribe button, what are you waiting for? A grand invitation? Hit that subscribe button so don't miss one of these awesome videos or any of the awesome videos I put up. As always, keep your eyes out for any old or newer videos you might not have seen yet. And as always, check out that awesome link down with the awesome horror pack. Now, if you're a huge horror fan, what better way to get every month awesome horror films right to your door every month for a low, great price? And each box comes with an awesome limited edition that you can't get anywhere else. So if you're a big fan of collectibles or out of prints or stuff that's valuable or anything like that, what better way to get it included in your price and not have to pay out the wazoo for something on eBay or somewhere, you know what I mean? So this is an awesome box, so you should definitely check it out. So if you're interested in that, please hit that link down below, take you right to the site, sign up, and also you'll get a discount on your first month. And as always, people, check out the awesome Stardust app on the Google Play Store or Apple Play Store. Now, this awesome app allows you to watch 3 to 30-second little mini reviews of trailers, TV shows, TV episodes, movies, anything you can think of. And also, the app keeps updating, adding new awesome special features, like different polls or, what's your thoughts on this movie or what's your thoughts on, this director and stuff like that. It's a really cool app. So if that interests you, go ahead and download that in your whatever Play Store you have, and then end up following me at Cyberneticshark, and I'll follow you back. And as always, catch you in the next one.